Record. Okay, so hi again. I'm Susan Blum. I just remembered to put the recording on. Today is Friday the 27th, I think. See, this is what happens when you're home. March 27th. It's important I say the date because the information keeps changing, right? So today, what I'm going to share with you today, there might be different recommendations a week from now. And so today's March 27th. It's Friday. And so I was just thinking, and I've been talking a lot about and thinking a lot about the public health stuff, right? So there's the medical piece. We're going to talk about supplements today, and I see there's a lot of questions about all of that. And we'll answer questions. I'm going to spend really my time with you is all for question and answer. But what I want to start out all my sessions by saying is that as I dig in and I read everything about I have my master's in public health. So I do understand the curves and the epidemiology and the statistics and the importance of balancing, the public good with individual, rights and what we can do from a public health perspective and what to expect and what's coming down the pipeline. And so instead of repeating bad news or concerns I'll answer questions. Certainly if that comes up as a question, I'm just going to give a little intro today before I go into questions. And my intro for today is going to be I want to just talk about this idea that about the lack of testing, which gives us lack of data. Okay. And so, how on the news, like I'm in New York, right? I'm an hour north of the city. And so I'm grateful. I'm not in Manhattan. And one of my sons who lives in the city 2 weeks ago came up here and he's staying in the house with us. But, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that because there's such little testing, probably half of you that are listening today, and I see, we're over 100 now. Thank you for joining. That there's, everyone struggled to get a test, even if you're mildly positive or even if you're sick. It's been very, very difficult, even now. And today is March, what I say it was, 27th, Friday, March 27th. And so it's been hard to get a test. And so since the only people who have been tested are the really sick people, people in the hospital or people that passed all of those rules at the beginning, like you had to have a fever and you had to live in a certain area, you had to have exposure. They weren't testing anyone. The death rate, the number of cases that we have are all the really sick people. The people who are really sick are the cases, and then the death rate for those, so the percentage of people who have died or that go into the ICU is very disproportionately high. Because if you think about like an iceberg, right, and this is a whole iceberg, right? What we see above the surface are the really sick people who have access to testing. But below the surface, icebergs, 3/4 of the volume of an iceberg are below the ocean, right? Remember the Titanic, how it saw this little thing above the water, but what was below the water was huge. Below the surface, we have thousands and thousands and maybe tens of thousands of people who, especially here in New York but around the world, who have been exposed and never got a test and never went to the hospital. And they either had mild illness or they had a pretty bad flu, but they stayed home and never got a test. And some people maybe were asymptomatic. We think some kids might have just be carriers and never got sick. There could be a huge group of people like that. So once you figure out so when this is all over, we're not going to know this until the summer. So once we get through this like terrible tsunami, right, of all the people that are going to pile up and get sick from this first wave, this summer we're going to collect all the data. And I'm confident that we're on this. Like the public health people know this is the next step. We're going to collect all the data and we're going to figure out that the death rate's not as high as we think because so many people have it and they didn't get as sick. So when you figure out how many people died versus all the people that were exposed and all the people that are now immune and all the people that had it, the percentage of the sickest people are going to go down. Does that make sense? And so now there's a growing sense that, there's a growing sense right now in this moment that probably, there's a lot of people out there who have been exposed because we think it's very contagious. And if it's as contagious as we think, And that's something called the row naught. The people talk about the row of an illness is how contagious it is. If this is really, really super contagious, then there are a lot more people that had it than are showing up in the hospital. And that means that that there's just there's a lot of people who don't get that sick. So I want to hold on to that. So that's my good news of the day. That I think there's a lot of people, we're going to find out that a lot of people had this, a lot of people get it and they don't get that sick. And the fear, that everyone who gets it is going to end up in the ICU we're going to get over that panic. All right. So that's my little public health pitch for the day. We still all have to stay home. So I'm home. And so this is, you're going to see me like this every Friday. No makeup. I did take a shower. I got dressed, which is my other piece of advice that I'll lead into is now that we're all home, and I will give you what I think is maybe my little bad news of the day, or maybe for some of you it's good news. I think we're going to be home till the end of April. So I think we're going to be, I think for the most part, like I don't see myself opening Blum Center until May 1st in terms of seeing patients there. Now we're virtual and now all the rules are lifted and you're allowed to see me now as a new patient or anyone on my team, even if you don't come to the office. We used to have a rule that you had to come to the office, but now telemedicine is going to be widespread. So anyone can make an appointment now and see us at Blum Center. We're all working from home. It's me and 2 other clinicians and a nutritionist and a health coach, and we're all available. We have availability in our schedules because we're all home. And so I think we should all plan on being home another month. And once you get used to that idea, you sort of get used to it. And that's going to slow down the whole spread and let us all catch up. We're going to figure out treatment. We're going to figure out how contagious this really is. We're going to figure out, so we'll start doing immune testing widespread to see how many people were infected and are now immune. And we'll get a better handle. And if it does come back in the fall, which it could, and I think we probably could expect it's not going to completely go away, we'll be ready. We'll have treatment. Immunizations won't be ready till another year for next winter, the winter after this one. But if it comes back, we don't know if it will, we'll be ready. We'll have better statistics. So we're going to know that it's not as deadly perhaps as we think, and the hospitals will be ready to treat everyone that comes in, so that that'll also lower the death rate because everybody will, because we'll be able to take better care of everyone. People will be treated, there'll be less at once, we'll be ready come the fall. It's just now it's going to be really painful right now. And so just breathe. So we all have to breathe. So keep your routine every morning, get up and take a shower, and plan your day. Have meals on regular schedules, have a bedtime, organize your family that way, and that's how we're going to get through it. And stay connected. See, you all hopped on Zoom. You can do video, you can do Skype, you can do FaceTime. So these are all really important things to do, with all your people. Stay connected and no fear. We've all been home now for a few weeks. You're home and you're safe and your family's safe. If you're going out, and we all have to go to the store, there's no evidence that there's any problem. There's no evidence that people are getting sick from the store. Okay. Wear your glove and your mask or whatever you have access to. Wipe down, wash your hands, do all the hygiene, wipe down the stuff you bring home. Do all the precautions. Okay. And that's really good. But don't be afraid of going out to the store, especially as things start settling down. There's plenty of food. We're not going to starve. Okay. The food supply chains are working. Plenty of food. There'll be some hiccups. You might not get everything you want, but we'll be able to eat. And our kids are going to manage to go to school from home. We'll all manage. And we'll end up spending a lot more time with our families and slowing things down. And there'll be some sort of interesting good stuff. But the next 2 weeks are going to be really hard. So don't watch the news all day, and find a way to practice some sort of stress management, right? So I wake up and I meditate. I get my tea and I meditate in the morning. You can use an app. You can do yoga. There's a lot of streaming video things. Give yourself a routine. Go out for a walk. Spring is here. At least I'm in New York. So spring is here. Make sure you go out for a walk. Stay far. Wave to people from the other side of the street, and you can go out for a walk. All right. That's it. I'm going to start answering questions. So let's see. I'm going to start with the people who emailed in questions to me. So first question was about oregano oil and taking oregano oil. So there were a bunch of questions about supplements. So I'm sure. So why don't we work on supplements first? So anybody who's raising your hands and anybody who's posting in the Q&A, go over and put it into the chat box. So logistics. You open the chat box and you'll see there's a hole, and make sure at the very bottom where you're typing your message that there's a little, it says two. There's two ... and you have to choose who you're sending the message to. Just toggle that and make sure you're sending it to all panelists and all attendees. It should go to everyone, right? So it says, for me, I have it on everyone in the meeting, okay? And so unless you want to send it to, if you don't want people to see your name, you can send it to me directly, to just me, okay? Or just the panelists, and then the public won't see your name. So that's the option, okay? So here we go. Excuse me, that was just me inhaling something. 1 second. Oh, I forgot to bring water with me. Well, if I have to get up and get water, I'll let you know. I might have to go. Okay, but let's start talking and then maybe I won't need to. All right, so oregano oil. So oregano oil, a lot of people take oregano oil for it. They swear that it really helps them, with not getting bronchitis or cold in the winter. Oregano oil, in my review of antiviral literature, I think oregano oil is great. There's absolutely no reason not to take it. Don't overdo, you just take whatever your usual dose is. It would be fine. But it doesn't have direct antiviral activity that I know of. At least not in the supplements that I've read, mostly looking at immune supplements and immune herbs. There could be some studies out there I don't know about, but there's no downside to taking oregano. So if it's one of your favorite things that you have used in winters past to not get sick, and I have many people who tell me they take it to not get sick, go right ahead. Next question. While I was away in February, I stopped taking my vitamin D, given that exposure to sun every day. When I returned, I resumed 3,000 a day. Should I have simply reduced my intake while away? And if I feel any viral symptoms, not increase my dosage? So this is a question about vitamin D. I apologize. I'll tell you right now that this is why I put the date on this talk, right? I said it's March 27th, 2020. Because 2 weeks ago, there was all this about vitamin D. And then last week it was changing. And now it's changing, right? And so I sent out emails because I'm trying to give the best advice and information to my people that I can. And so I sent out all this, information about concerns about vitamin D, causing like too much of an overreaction of the immune system if you got really sick. It's called the Cytokine Storm. And this went all around the internet. I mean, this was like a big thing. And so really all my colleagues, we've all like dug into this and been looking at it. And at this point, vitamin D is too important an immune supporting supplement to stop taking it. So do not stop taking your vitamin D. All right. However, the initial recommendations to take to double your dose if you get sick, that's the only thing that we're walking back. So everyone should take their usual dose of vitamin D because we need to maintain your vitamin D levels. That's really important for your immune system. But you do not need to, if you get sick, don't double it. Okay, there's no reason to double your vitamin D dose at this point to protect yourself against the virus. Just stick with your current D dose and you're good. Okay, that's where we've all agreed. Next question is about andrographis. I had to find out what it is, and some sites call it Indian echinacea. Do its properties differ enough that it sits outside the consume to stop it if you get sick? Actually, andrographis stays on the list. It's different enough that you can take andrographis now and you can stay on that if you get sick. So that in everything that I've read, andrographis is good and safe to stay on. Okay, so that's one of those antiviral herbs, antiviral and immune supporting, right? Boosting the natural killer cells, which will protect you from getting them. So if you get the virus, the idea is you want to lower the viral load, right? So the term viral load, all that means is that the virus, how much virus there is in the body. So it replicates and replicates and replicates, and it gets like a runaway train, and your immune system can dampen that and keep it from copying itself and replicating and growing in your body. And so support all these things that support your immune system now are the thing that you're taking now to support your immune system will actually help quench and quell the growth of the virus if you were exposed. And so that's the reason to take these things. Speak about arthritis and not moving so much in the current climate. What to do? All right, well, that actually speaks to exercise, I guess. Okay, and so I can see that, so we all have to adapt and do exercise differently, right? And some of you might live in a little apartment in the city. Some of you might be in homes where you can go outside. I don't know, depending on where all of you live, but, and your opportunity. But even if you're stuck home, I know you have internet because you're here and you're posting questions. And so I think that, I think that we all have to find a way to exercise. So I understand if you have arthritis and you're not moving so much, my first thing is, yes, you can still move. Okay. So make a routine. This goes back to make a routine. So my routine is I'm meditating in the morning and I'm walking the dog, 45-minute brisk walk outside every day. And so I'm moving, right? Even if it's for going for a lap around your neighborhood, you can go outside and walk. Just stay away from people where, no one's going up to each other. Your dogs don't need to, play on the street like they might have used to. You just go out for a walk and you just stay away from people and don't go into, don't be socializing. It's a walk. So walking's really good. If you don't want to go outside, you can do exercise tapes, right? You can do yoga. For arthritis, motion is the lotion. And so you just want to move those joints. And so you can do something simple like stretching, yoga, Pilates. There's all sorts of people offering free classes online now, people who have paid classes on YouTube. You can stream anything. And so put it in your schedule. So decide what time you're going to exercise, and then you're going to go take a shower and you're going to get dressed. And you might not put on makeup, right? So I'm not doing that. I don't, no jewelry, no makeup, right? I did take a shower and wash my hair for you guys. But I think that this is an opportunity for us all to practice our self-care, because if, there's more time, right? Because we're home, we have more time. Now I say that for a lot of you, that might not be the case for a lot of you. I mean, because I want to have compassion. One of our docs in our office, every week. So I'm having multiple video check-ins with my whole team. So we're like a circle, like I could see people around my Zoom video and we're all checking in. And I have one of our team members, she's one of our docs, that has children at home, has someone at home, to homeschool and to make dinner, and there's all the cooking and cleaning, and kids are at home, and so there's a lot more housework to do, and there are kids. So if you have young kids at home that you're still taking care of, it might be hard for you to find time for your self-care, because maybe you used to have a babysitter or when they were at school. So do the best you can with that. Your spouse, you can take turns. You can each make sure you have time to yourself. So I have a lot of compassion for the people. I have patients all week I've been keeping my schedule still very full with all my Zoom. I moved everyone to virtual visits. As you can see, because you can see me, it's very easy to have a conversation with people by video. And I have a lot of folks that are home with their kids. And so you have to find a routine, and in that routine, find time to get exercise. And if you can't do that in the house because they're all over you, then ask your spouse to watch the kids and make time tell each other you'll cover, and then go for a walk. So keep up the exercise, really important. You have to move. All right. So I'm on methotrexate for 2.5 years. Besides all natural treatments suggested, I was instructed to stop my medication for the time being. I would like your input on this matter. That's really interesting. And so here's the thing. That's a tough, so so this person's name is Suzeli. Everyone listening, this is going to be different for every one of you. You have to follow what your rheumatologist tells you. It's not up to me. Okay. I'm not giving medical advice here. It would be you absolutely cannot stop your medication yourself without consultation with the doctor who prescribed your medication. Now, it's possible that for somebody who's been stable and and really good for a couple of years, that you've already been considering stopping the medication, it's possible that now's the time, that it's just the timing is good for you, that you're doing well, and the doctor thinks that you'd be perfectly safe if you tapered off and stopped it. You can't ever cold turkey those medications by yourself, and you have to be somewhat stable. It's not worth risking a flare of your autoimmune disease if you're on immune suppressing medication. So I would bet that the rheumatologists are really all over this and very active. I would never counsel anyone to stop their meds right now. However, if you're on meds, I have a patient with Lyme whose Lyme doctor called her, because people, if you're she's really been sick and on like intensive treatment right now. Her Lyme doctor called her and said, I want you to barricade yourself in your house and barricade your husband in the house with you and anyone else who's you're going to, and no, don't let anybody into your house unless they've been with you this whole time, or they're barricaded. Barricade your house, don't see anyone, because he was so concerned. And so if you're a high-risk individual and you're on medication that suppresses your immune system, barricade yourself in the house and you're one of the last people to come out, because it's true that the medications increase your risk. Now, you can't just stop them on your own. If you've been stable and in remission for a while, you can certainly call your rheumatologist and do a video consult like this, and talk about whether you're a candidate to cut back on your medication. And if you are, now would be a good time. So that's my answer to that. Okay, advice on using CPAP machines. So I'm not quite sure. Sorry, I have a tickle. Coming right back. Okay, sorry. I thought that dry throat, I was going to make it. I always have a glass of water when I set myself up, but I'm a little bit out of sorts today, I guess, or not in my usual routine. So CPAP machine. I'm not sure I understand I'll answer the question in the way that I think you're asking it. If you're doing a CPAP machine, it's because you have sleep apnea. If you're not sick and you've been quarantined in the house, I'm using the word quarantine very loosely, self-isolating. Okay, if you've been self-isolating in the house or apartment in your home, and we've all probably been, I'm 2 weeks now since I was in the office, so I'm two solid weeks. Once you hit the 2 solid week part, you're not sick, right? So you might want to hold off on the CPAP until you clear that hurdle where you've had no exposure for 2 weeks. And because I can see the issue about it forcing air into your lungs. But once you know that you're clear, you should definitely use your CPAP machine, because you're going to sleep better, you'll get better oxygen. But if you think you've had any exposure, or somebody around you sick, or you coming and going in and out of the house, if you're still working outside the home, and thank you for your service if you are, because that means you're an essential person that's keeping us all safe. And we all so grateful for your continued service and work outside in the community. And so if you feel you have exposure, then you might want to put the CPAP machine aside for now. Because one of the things that I did read is that what I've been doing, and it's just an easy idea, but when you first get the virus, if you get exposed, it's first in your nose and your mouth, right, for a couple of days until it makes its way down into your lungs. And so you want to, so the idea is, especially if you're working outside and you're getting constant exposure, keep sipping warm water all day. You want to sip warm, but keep drinking every 20 minutes, every half hour. Just keep filling up hot water in your tea, and just keep drinking it all day, because you'll flush into your stomach where there's really good stomach acid, and it'll kill the virus. You just don't want it to end up in your lungs, right? So you want to keep flushing your mouth all the time and swallowing. And so that's one of the ways to keep flushing it from your mouth and your nose from your oral nasopharyngeal area into your stomach. And so a CPAP machine would push it into your lungs. So it is actually a very good question. So I guess if it was me, my recommendation would be, if you've been, again, I'm repeating myself, my summary is if you've been isolated for 2 weeks and you know you're in a closed system. So I'm in my house with, there's 4 of us. We haven't seen anyone for 2 weeks, right? So I know I have a closed system. I know if I don't leave my house, I'm not getting it. I would go back on my CPAP machine if I had one. So then you know you're okay. But if you're at all not sure if you have exposure, that's a very good question. I probably put it aside for now, because you don't want to force air into your lungs. Okay. Can you get the virus twice? We don't know yet. We don't think so. I would say because in China, they've been, I don't know, there's something called, there's something called antibodies, and there's something called convalescent serum, which is, you might have all been hearing about, one of the treatments that they're starting to use actually today in Manhattan, in New York City. Governor Cuomo approved, and they fast tracked this, the serum, which is just the clear part of the blood. You know, when you spin blood and you get the serum has the antibodies in it. They giving somebody who had it and giving somebody who's sick the blood from somebody who had it because it has antibodies. And so they did this during the SARS and Zika epidemics, and it seemed to work. It was safe, it was tolerated, and it seemed to help. So so they're doing that. And so that's my answer to your question about getting it twice, because we know that the body makes antibodies, right? What we don't know is how long the antibodies last. So for example, if you take, if you get measles, a measles vaccine, or if you get measles, you get, it's lifelong immunity, right? You're immune for the rest of your life. Usually, very, very long time. It's a very stable virus. It's a very stable immunity. You make antibodies and you keep them lifelong. We know we're making antibodies to this virus. So if you have it now, you won't get it in the fall. I think pretty good bet. I can't promise you, because like I said at the beginning, we're still collecting all data. But in the near term, you shouldn't get it again. We just don't know how long the immunity is going to last. And so we'll have to measure that and see. But people do make antibodies after this. They definitely are. And in terms of the testing, the widespread testing that is required for us to collect enough data, like I was saying at the beginning of my opening monologue, was that we need to collect all the data about everyone who's been infected. And the way we're going to get that data is by testing antibody levels. And we're going to see who's immune. And we're going to test for immunity. And that's going to answer your question. How do you wash your fruit and veggies? Is plain water okay? Plain water is fine. So there's really no evidence that the virus lives on food, okay? That it's living on food. Surfaces like the subways and metal surfaces, and maybe on other surfaces for like a day, potentially. But there's no evidence that people are getting it from food. So I think that we could be, and when you eat it, you have to breathe it to get sick from it. If you eat food and there's some virus on it, your stomach is gonna kill it. So it has to be sort of airborne so that you breathe it. And so sort of it's the touching and then putting your hand to your mouth and then breathing it, right? That's the problem. And so there's no evidence that it's on foods, but I do think that if you definitely can wash the food, wash your hands, and swallow the food and eat it, and you should be fine, and you will be fine. We can't be afraid to eat the food. Okay, again, I've been really scouring, my reading to see any evidence, right? There's any concern that people are going to get it by going to the grocery store. The issue is seeing other people, right? And so it's people to people. And the amount of how contagious it is data that'll still come out. So yeah, you can definitely wash everything. What a lot of people, there's some great, I've been hearing about great YouTubes, instructions for bringing packages into your house, and they talk about sort of having a dirty area, like it all comes in, you put on gloves, or, you just be very careful, you unpack everything, and then you even if you bring things in that are in boxes, you let some things sit for a day before you touch it. in a day, nothing will be on it anymore. There are boxes going everywhere. There's no reason to think we don't have like UPS drivers that are all, there's no epidemic in the UPS and FedEx world right now and all the delivery people. So that we know of. And so I think that, I think we're pretty safe, but unpack everything. And I would say definitely wipe it all down. If you have something to wipe it down with, it can be just, I have some like this Shackley, I have my green cleaner, spray stuff for the outside of packages. So we like wipe things down, but I'm not going crazy about that, so opening up the packages, leaving them over there, taking the stuff out, taking and before putting them in the fridge, wiping them down, washing my hands, the packages from outside sort of stay in the dirty area, and just don't get touched again. All right. So there's a way you can stage that. So be mindful, but don't make yourself nuts. It's really no evidence that the food, that it's coming into your house with the food. Okay. But be careful. When you go to the store, it's yourself you have to worry about, right? Because you have the person who goes to the store has to sort of decontaminate themselves before they come in the house. So that's take off the gloves, if you have a mask and gloves, you should wear it when you go to the store. And depends on where you live too, but I'm in New York, so we're all doing that. And as soon as you put the bags in in your trunk, I take the gloves off, I wipe my hands, I have wipes in the car, wipe down the steering wheel and just wipe everything down. And then when you come home, wash your hands right away, take off all your outer garments, take off your shoes, and just leave them in the area right outside your home or in a mud room or wherever, and just don't touch them for a day, And so you just leave them all there and you come right in and you wash yourself, you wash your hands. I have people telling me that after they go to the store, they come right in, they disrobe everything and leave it in a mud room and they go right up and take a shower. Like, so whatever you want to do, but it's coming into what you're bringing into the house when you do your errand to the store. Deliveries it's not on the food. It's more about what's on you or what you were exposed to when you were there. Okay. Can you please talk about Plaquenil in the news and what it means to us on it? So, that's it. So there's two parts to that question. I'm wondering whether you're asking, oh boy, there's a lot of questions. So I got to keep going. I'm wondering if you're asking, so Plaquenil is now, I have patients on Plaquenil that are having trouble getting their renewals. So try to find a place to get a refill. Hopefully you have enough for another 30 days. So the refill thing is a problem because we don't know yet whether Plaquenil is going to be the magic bullet that it says it's going to be. That President Trump sort of announced that it was a little prematurely. Fingers are crossed. It's really important that we do the studies, right? We have to, for the future, we have to do the studies. We have to see, we have to learn more about it. And so at the same time they're giving it to people, they're also studying it, and they're doing these randomized studies. So very good. For you on it, it's a good thing. You're taking Plaquenil. So if it has antiviral activity, that's probably good for you. So I wouldn't worry about being on it, and it's probably, to your advantage, I would say. Unless you're on other medicine that are immune suppressing as well, which maybe it'll help negate that if it does in fact have the antiviral activity that they hope it does. Should we be taking liquid zinc daily, even if we don't have any symptoms? So I think everybody should be, as a preventive, taking zinc every day. It's in your multi. You don't have to take liquid. The thing about liquid and lozenges, if you have it, is it coats your throat. So it will sort of help with preventing the virus from, it helps antiviral activity in the local area where you sort of breathe it in. So that's one advantage to that. But even oral zinc every day is very good for you. So zinc upregulates the immune system. It helps the natural killers fight better. And so definitely take zinc. I tell people 15 milligrams minimum, 15, 30 milligrams every day. And if you got sick, I would up that to like 50, and go higher. Or if you're taking 50, just double whatever you're taking if you get sick. Don't go over 50 though, I don't think, or 50 to 60. I don't think you need more than that. And that's for a short period of time. So I think if you take that too long term at high doses. So a daily dose, I would say, is 50 and less, or 50 and less. But I'm comfortable if your 15's in your multi, that's good. If 30's in your multi, that's good. If you have a separate zinc, We have a zinc in the office that's like 54 I've been giving people. I'm fine with that. And that's all good for now. Don't go higher than that, even if you get sick, but it's really good for you. What would be the dose and frequency of NAC? So N-acetylcysteine helps you make glutathione, and it's a little lung protective. It helps lower mucus in the lungs, which one of the issues with people who get very sick from COVID, the people that are on respirators, is they make sort of mucus plugs and they can't sort of get the air going through it. And so the dose for me, I think my NAC that I use in the office is about 900 milligrams for a capsule. So I would say somewhere between 500 and 1,000 a day. If you get sick, you can go up to 2 a day. You can double that. But for prevention, I think that's a perfectly good dose. I live in Queens and my stress level keeps increasing. I'm sorry, it is so hard. And there's been such difficult news coming out of Queens at Elmhurst Hospital. I'm really praying for your our community. We're all in this together, but for our friends and our people in Queens. Should I have concerns about walking my dog 3 times a day? No, as long as you're not seeing anybody. Go out and walk your dog. It's not in the air, okay, in Queens. It's not blowing down the street. You have to have contact with somebody with it. And it's air droplets. You know, measles is so contagious that you can get sick if you're in the room with someone with measles. Like one person can infect 9 or 10 people in the same, just by being in the room. Okay, we do not believe this is as contagious as that. Okay, and so at all, it doesn't look, it has that level. Zika virus was like 2 people, and you have to be right next to. Zika virus would infect only 2 people. The average Zika person infected 2 people, not 10, right? So that's how you sort of measure contagion. Go and walk your dog. If your dog needs walking, just don't talk to anybody. You have to stay 6 feet away from anyone you see. When do you think the blood serology test will be available to the public? So that's the blood serology test is the immune testing. I actually think that the serology tests are going to be available very soon, a week or 2. One of my functional medicine testing companies sent us an email offering to be able to start doing test kits. So the thing about serology testing is that it's pretty much available now. The problem is that although the public isn't, you can't go, where are you going to go get a test, right? You're not going to walk into a doctor. No one's drawing blood, right? The labs are sort of closed. Everyone's to other than the COVID testing. And so I think in another week, the routine labs like Quest and LabCorp are going to have access to those tests. The problem is that how are you going to go get it? And so the world, the United States, or the labs in the US are trying to figure out how to implement a finger stick test that you could do at home. And I think we're probably a couple of weeks away from the finger stick test, but I think by the end of April, we'll have kits that we can send you to do. And I think I should be able to start distributing those kits too at Blum Center. So stay tuned. We'll announce that if that's true and you're on our email list. That we can order through this company, but they're delayed in being able to roll that out, the finger stick part, because the problem is with everyone quarantined at home or self-isolating at home, how are you going to get them the test? So I think the test is currently available. It's just now they're trying to figure out how to make it accessible to the public. So the widespread testing, there's going to be drive-throughs, they just have to set it up. So I would say that it'll definitely be available at the point we all leave our homes and can go to a lab. So by the time we're all like released from self-isolation, which I think is probably going to be think about May 1st, the end of April, when we'll really be safe to go over to Quest and LabCorp and get your blood drawn. And hopefully by then we'll have the kits to do at home before then. So I hope that answers your question. The technology is there. It's really a conundrum about how to implement the testing. And right now, the testing centers are really focused on the drive-through is about sick people. We haven't gotten caught up yet in testing who's got the virus. And so I think the focus at the same time, the private labs are working really hard also on the serology testing. So stay tuned. I think it's a couple of weeks. The priority is right now they're both a priority actually. And so I think that will roll out soon. If you're high risk, should you wear a mask when walking in parks? Even keeping 6 feet, you tend to walk into the other area. Yeah, if I was high risk, I actually think even me, I'm going to wear a mask when I go outside. And not when I walk the dog, but if I go to a public place, I walk the dog, I just walk around my block, and it's not that many people on the street. I'm in the country suburbs. But if you're in a dense populated area and you go for a walk, you're definitely putting a mask on, and you're definitely putting one on. I would recommend that if you're high risk. And if you have a mask, I was able to order a mask. It just came in the mail. I ordered like a cloth mask from Etsy, ETSY. Somebody sent me the link, and I ordered these cute cloth masks, and they just came. It took a week, but I got my mask. And so when I go out in public, I'm going to wear a mask. So I have an autoimmune condition, maybe lupus. I'm very weak and fragile with barely any weight in my body. I'm sorry. That sounds very hard. They say people like this should stay inside and go nowhere. True. How can I keep myself strong from this if I were to get it, if I would be more likely to die? I already have chest pain and tightness at times. I can't imagine getting COVID and not really being able to breathe. I take vitamin C and zinc and fermented probiotics. Is that enough? I don't do well with supplements. Vitamin C and zinc and probiotics is fine. You just have to barricade yourself in the house. You just have to really stay isolated. And what that means is you have to not only stay home, but you have to screen anybody who visits you. The only people that you can see that can come into the house with you or be in the house with you are people who also have been quarantining themselves for 2 weeks. So you can only be around people who have been self-isolated for 2 weeks, right? So anyone who's really high risk who's listening, do not let anyone come into your house or be around you unless you know they've been quarantined themselves for 2 weeks. That's the magic number. Okay. And so that's all you can do. If you get sick, the simplest thing, and this for everybody listening, the safest and most well-studied thing you can take is vitamin C. They've done high-dose IV vitamin C drips in China to help treat people in the hospitals. They're experimenting that here in New York City. One of my colleagues sent me a link showing me that one hospital is doing that. And so I'm telling people that 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C, especially if you're going in and out of your house. If you've been quarantined at home for 2 weeks and you know you're not going to see anyone, you're probably fine doing 1 to 3 grams, somewhere in there, not the full 3,000. But if for prevention, if you're working still, 3,000 a day of C, and if you get sick, you'd go up to 6,000. As high a dose of vitamin C as you can tolerate before it gives you diarrhea. Vitamin C can give you diarrhea if you take too much. So we say vitamin C to bowel tolerance. So take as much as you can before it gives you diarrhea. And then if it gives you diarrhea, then you'll stop. Okay. So elderberry question, to take or not to take? Sorry. I know, it's really crazy. Is it a good idea to be revving your innate immune system with the idea that it will take out the virus in the early stages? So yes, it's absolutely a good idea to be revving your immune system now so that it will take out the virus in the early stages. Elderberry is a fantastic herb. It's great for doing this. You should absolutely be taking it now if you have it. There's been huge controversy, and this is why I kept writing things that confused people, and I'm sorry if you're one of those people that were confused, and hopefully I'll straighten it out now. And I went and I updated my blog on the website on this topic to make it very clear. There is this thing called the cytokine storm, which just means that in some people, this is a minority, these are the people in the ICU. The people that end up in the ICU are there because there's an overwhelming cytokine storm in their lungs. And what that means is that there's so much release of oxidative stress and free radicals triggered by the virus. It's like a runaway train in the stress that it's causing in the body of these release of these chemicals, these cytokines. And so the concern, there was early on 2 weeks ago, there was a lot buzzing around about how these vitamins and supplements can contribute to cytokine storm. And really, we've gone around and around and around, and many people have written on this topic, and really it's at this part, for the most part, it's really been debunked, and most people aren't really too concerned about elderberry contributing to cytokine storm at all. That being said, there are still some people who written about that. And so what I tell people, so I'm going the middle path. So everyone can make their own choice. My recommendation is to take all your elderberry stuff, is definitely to take all the elderberry now. It will help get your immune system ready. You want your soldiers to be locked and loaded, okay? Your immune system is like an army of soldiers. Lock and load. Get them ready to fire, okay? So there's a big, the cytokine storm is not what happens when you first get exposed, okay? That's something that happens very much at the end of the road, like later on, for people who are, and in a minority of people. We don't know why some people have it and why some people don't. Okay, so it's not like everyone gets a cytokine storm who's in the ICU. So let me just clarify that. I didn't want to leave any confusion. There's a very minority of people who end up with cytokine storm. We don't know who they are. And so there's nothing in any study that's been done anywhere ever in PubMed that shows that any of these supplements contribute to a cytokine storm. Ever. Never been a study. There's theoretical concern. It's a theoretical issue. And there have been more studies that show that these supplements are beneficial than there's any study that's ever been done showing that they're not. And so I want to reassure all of you to keep taking all of the supplements that have been posted by me and other people that we know that have evidence for antiviral activity and that boost your immune system, that's the antiviral, division of your immune system. And elderberry is one of them. So absolutely stay on elderberry. If you get sick, I'm just telling people to sort of choose what you want to do about elderberry. To err on the side of complete caution, you could stop the elderberry if you get sick. But definitely take it up until then, because there's absolutely no evidence, that it's only evidence that it's good for you. So I hope that was clear. Take everything now. If you get sick, there's just the elderberry is really the only one that we're saying to, pull back on. Okay, so potentially, and it's only theoretical. But because we're always cautious, and I'm not you guys, this is not medical advice, right? I'm just giving you recommendations based upon what I read, not medical advice. You have to make your own choices here. So I'm not your doctor. I'm talking to a group. And so I'm just sharing information that I've read. And so everything that I keep writing and telling you is the most cautious road, which is why which is why my current recommendation is to stop the elderberry if you get sick, even though I suspect it's fine. I just take my responsibility in giving you information very seriously. And so that's why. But you can make your own decision about what to do. I have another call. Okay, good. How do thyroid disorders get affected by this amount of stress? Well, this amount of stress is going to affect everything. Right? This amount of stress is going to affect your hormones. You might notice that your period starts getting irregular. You might notice that you're getting hot flashes again when your menopause you thought was gone. You might notice that your thyroid, you're feeling tired. That could be from depleted adrenals, or you're pumping out a lot of cortisol. Now, a lot of cortisol, the stress hormone cortisol, the way it affects your thyroid is it actually can block the binding of thyroid hormone to the cells. So even though your levels might look good on your blood test, you might get some resistance to the activity of your thyroid hormones, which is part of the reason that you might feel a little tired. It inhibits the conversion of T4 to T3. So stress has a big effect on the functioning of your thyroid hormones. And so it's a reason you might get a little bit, your mood could get a little low, you could get a little tired. And we all have reasons for that, in terms of stress. So here's the thing. And so I'm not going to spend too long on this. I see our time's I want to get to all my questions, but the stress comes into your body. There's stressors out there, and then there's your stress response. Right now, we have to surrender to the fact we can't control the stressor. We're all bathed in this coronavirus stressor. It's a shared stress we all have. It's a stressor in the world. but we have a choice about how it comes into our body. So you have something to say, and you can influence your stress response. And so there's nothing we can do about stressor, but we can do something about our reaction to it. And again, that's where the walk comes in, nature, meditation, and exercise and self-care. Get a good night's sleep, all of that. And then you won't have that raging fight or flight cortisol that's going to be raging through your body, the panic attacks, the adrenaline that gives palpitations. You won't have, the cortisol that's interfering with your thyroid. I'm not really going to talk about, so ACE inhibitors, I'm not going to talk about that. If you're on an ACE inhibitor, talk to your cardiologist about that. The general consensus is, because the concern is that the virus somehow interacts with the ACE inhibitors, and there's some people for blood pressure that are on them. From what I've read, most cardiologists and the consensus of hospitalists is to leave people on their ACE inhibitors, absolutely for now. But if you get sick, you speak to your cardiologist. Okay, so if you're on an ACE inhibitor, consult with your cardiologist and tell them, and do whatever they tell you. I am not weighing in on that. I am not giving you medical advice. The jury's sort of out about what the medication ACE inhibitors actually do, and whether they're really harmful or helpful. So, and whether that's a real thing. So the cardiologists are monitoring that, and they're studying that. So you talk to your cardiologist about that. Andrographis versus astragalus. Andrographis is actually thought to be definitely andrographis. You can do both, actually. The andrographis is good for the duration of being sick. Some questions about staying on astragalus if you were to get sick, but I like both of them. And so if you're doing astragalus, you might want to stop that after you get sick, but andrographis, you could stay on it. That's the recommendations that I'm sharing with you was published by it's Andy Weil's team at the University of Arizona Department of Integrative Medicine. They put out like recommendations. They did all this research on all these herbs and supplements. And so I'm actually just sharing, I'm a channel for what they recommended, because they sent out to all practitioners, their recommendations, which is good. With the immune builder mushroom supplements also help support natural killer cells. Yes. Yes, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Immune builder is a good choice. It's a whole mushroom extract. It will support your natural killers. As mushroom extracts go, it's one of my favorites, and that is perfectly good to stay on now, and even if you get sick. What about DGL for corona? No, deglycerinized licorice is really good to protect your stomach as you're going to get like stress, and whether you don't want to end up with gastritis or reflux, and the stress can affect your gut. And so the DGL is really good if you're a reflux person, if you have a heartburn person, and it protects the stomach lining, it protects the mucus in the stomach lining. So that's sort of protective for your stomach. It's not going to affect anything about corona that I know of. I discussed vitamin C. Positive. Oh, okay. So thank you for posting. So this is from a woman who's 66, tested positive for coronavirus on March 19th. So you're 8 days in. What are your recommendations? So thank you for sharing, because you're 66. So technically you're in a high risk zone, and you're positive and you're home, right? So the overwhelming majority of people are just home riding it out. They're not at the hospital. So that should give solace. I have so many people I know who have it, and no one's gone to the hospital. My other piece of good news, okay? This is the good news. Most people have this virus and they're home, okay? And they're just recovering. You're probably going to your self-quarantine. You need to be, from the day you got sick, the first onset of your fever, 3 weeks at home, okay? Because, and a week after you don't have fever anymore. So fever goes away, afebrile, 7 more days, self-quarantine. Like I said, vitamin C is my vitamin C high dose, 6 grams, as much as you could take before it gives you diarrhea. That's my best recommendation. Make sure you're taking zinc and a probiotic and protecting your gut. I think that's really that's the safest thing I could recommend to a large group like this. Okay. I take zinc lozenges. Excellent. Yep. Stay on the zinc lozenges when you're sick. If we test positive, do we still continue? Yes. I'm clarifying again. If you test positive, stay on your usual dose of vitamin D. Do not stop it, but also don't double it. Okay, are we clear? Stay on your D. Okay, so good. How do you feel about taking charcoal supplements? I had diaphragm yeast a few weeks ago and starting to take it. I feel better now, but should I be taking daily? Charcoal is neither here nor there. I like charcoal for diaphragm yeast. That's for a topic for another day. That's not really corona, related. It shouldn't interfere with your immune system or any problem with that. And good for you that you're treating your gut, because at the end of the day, a healthy gut is going to help you have a healthy immune system. So anyone who's in the middle gut treatment, or don't pause it, keep going, right? Do the gut treatment, do the herbs, you got to keep going. Okay. I'm nursing and have autoimmune. I have found that autoimmune diets have slowed my milk production. Any advice on how I can adjust my diet? Sorry, that's not really for today, where this is more of an open mic for corona questions. Perhaps that would be a better question for my medical team. Yeah. So you should probably get like a lactation consultant would be good. And actually, who would be good for you? We have an amazing nutritionist at Blum Center who does initial visits virtual. She's a pediatric nutritionist. Her name is Vicky. You can go on my website or call my office and schedule an appointment with her. She does prenatal. She loves prenatal stuff. She does prenatal nursing, infant and peds nutritionist. And so she can give you expert advice on nutrition. That's what you need. So that's our nutritionist, Vicky Kobliner. So I would make an appointment with her, which you can do no matter where you live. I have PSA and you're on Remicade. That's psoriatic arthritis, for those of you who don't know. My husband's still working outside of the house and coming home every day. We're keeping our distance and cleaning. Any other advice? It's really just what I said. Give him zinc and vitamin C also. Make sure you're taking it. He just has to really decontaminate himself when he comes in. And don't go near him, and sort of you might need to sort of stay away from him like you're doing. That's really my only advice. I mean, you can do what you can do, and if he gets sick, you quarantine him in the house and just stay really far away from him. Don't attention and spread the knowledge, but would like to be positive that it wouldn't make harm around me, among family. I count the following. It's somebody asking about people who is at high risk. So clarifying who the high risk people are out there. Okay, hypertension. So people with autoimmunity, yes. People with hypertension and diabetes, yes. People with sleep apnea, probably yes. Hypertension, sleep apnea. So yeah, anything cardiovascular, all hypertension, all diabetes, all autoimmunity, anyone with asthma, anyone with asthmatic bronchitis. The Hashimoto's thyroiditis on your list is probably the only person who's probably not high risk. Everybody else is. So everybody else, yes, on your list. And that is from Yeza. So that's everyone else is high risk. Those of you looking at the list can see that. I'm referring to the supplements intake. Sorry, I wasn't clear enough. Yeah, so those are all risk. Okay. From Wendy, let me just see how I'm getting. I'm almost at the bottom. So from Wendy, when you say you've all been home and haven't seen anyone else, what about if you or one of you have been to the market or anything delivered to the house, even if you didn't see anyone? Yeah, no, I'm getting deliveries, and we've been doing drive-by pickup. So we haven't seen anyone. We haven't been inside the market in my house. We haven't gone into the market. It's probably been a week since we haven't gone into the market. I think last weekend was the last time, or last Friday that one of us went into the market, or last Saturday. And so we haven't gone into the market last week, but I can see I'm going to need to do that probably this coming week. But I am getting deliveries. And so I'm getting deliveries, and we've been out to do a lot of our places are doing no contact pickup. So you call in your order, you give them your credit card, and then they leave the bag outside. And so I've been doing that. And so when I say I've been quarantined for 14 days, that's what I'm talking about. I haven't seen any people, but we've been doing pickup, and it's been 7 days since I've been inside a store and been in contact with anyone like to check out at the cash register. That's what I was talking about. Since only certain individuals will react with the severe cytokine storm, do you recommend a trial period for other individuals with using echinacea and elderberry and observe whether their symptoms improve or worsen? That's something you can try, certainly. This is a personal decision. I think that there's been a big blowback about cytokine storm. A lot of people have written back because the Andy Wild team will you have to be concerned about cytokine storm. There's been a lot of people pulling up all this literature and writing about that. Really, cytokine storm is not something to worry about. It happens so infrequently. It's not even something that happens to everyone in the ICU. It's a rare event. It's not a common event. And so there's been a lot of pushback that we shouldn't be so worried about the cytokine storm. So one path you could take is the one you suggest, where you could choose to stay on the supplements and then see if you feel better or worse. I'm sorry I can't be clear about that because I can't give medical advice, and I'm nervous to tell you all to take it when there's conflicting things I'm reading, right? And so that's why. I have ankylosing spondylitis, tested both negative and positive for Lyme. I've had a dry cough and some shortness of breath, no fever, on and off for about 4 weeks. So you absolutely, I've had people who I think are positive and they haven't had much of a fever. So you absolutely could have it, Audrey. Just stay home and take care of yourself and call your doctor and try to get a test. Okay. I think a dry cough, even if you don't have a fever, especially when you have other things going on and other immune reasons why you might not be having a fever, you should definitely get a test. So when in doubt, if you're sick at all or you have any new symptoms, you should treat yourself like you might have it and stay away from everybody and isolate. Using Plaquenil for virus, we are using Plaquenil for virus. It doesn't prevent the virus. It's only for treatment of virus. That it's being studied right now. And so it's going to be available in the hospitals for very sick people. It's not going to be generally available to the public until we have more information from studies. So sit tight about that. Ashwagandha, I love. It's an adaptogen. It'll help you with the stress. Okay, for the stress, take ashwagandha. I don't know if there's any antiviral studies, but if it's going to support your your adrenals and your stress system, that'll be good for your immune system. So indirectly, ashwagandha is probably a nice idea. Since only certain individuals will react with a severe cytokine storm, do you recommend a trial? Oh, that's the same person. Sorry. I live in an apartment building. What is your opinion on using the elevators? Yeah, tough one. Yeah, don't touch anything. So I would wear a mask and I would wear gloves in the elevator. Don't touch anything. If you have to touch the button, you can use a pen or something else to touch the button. Try not to touch anything. As soon as you come home, the reason to wear a mask also is so you don't touch your face. You have to wear gloves and a mask if you're in a public space like that. And then when you come back home from whatever you left to do, come back home, take your shoes off, take everything else, leave it outside your door if you feel safe that no one will take it, and go right in the apartment and wash up. Okay, like we said. What is your view on taking beta gluten and elderberry by people with autoimmune? Yeah, people with autoimmune in general, I don't tell them to take natural killer boosters. So if you have autoimmunity, since this is some people I do, but that's a one-on-one discussion I have with people, I don't, so you might be able to, you might not be able to. So my autoimmune people right now, I just tell them to take zinc and vitamin C and probiotics. We know that works. And I say, stay away from mushrooms and the natural killer boosters, because I don't know what kind of autoimmunity you have, and I can't give you another recommendation other than that. What about saline rinses for the nose? Excellent. Keep flushing out any exposure you might have. That's a great idea. Sip water all day and flush your nose. Can you reuse masks? I don't have an answer to that. I don't know what an ASTM3 mask is. I got a cloth mask, and so we're washing, if we go out, we just put them in the wash when we come home. We have 2 good masks. Can he reuse the mask? Well, I think if you don't have a choice, you should reuse the mask. I mean, he'll have to keep wearing the same mask. When he comes home, just put it somewhere, keep it outside the house and let it air out overnight. And then if he'll have to reuse it, he'll have to reuse it. You might want to go, I don't have information about that. I'm sure you could Google and try to find more information about how to reuse how to fix your mask to be, what you can do at home to sterilize your mask after using it. Um, I've been talking about supplements. I'm not going to repeat that. I like all probiotic. Just take a probiotic. Let's not do semantics now. Multi-strain, 30 to 50 billion a day would be good. I tried to get tested, but so far unable. I know. I'm sorry, Audrey. I know. I'm trying to navigate taking care of mom and myself. Stay home. If you take care of your 85 mom, you're in separate households. You only go back and, well, you should try to limit how many times you visit her, and just go as often as you need to. You need to stay quarantined so that yeah, it's a tough one. Your mother needs to stay quarantined. The 85-year-old, she's not going to see you as often as she used to, and that's for her own sake, right? And you probably just want to leave stuff outside her door and not go there's beautiful images on YouTube and online now about people visiting their grandparents and people visiting their parents, and they're waving and talking to them through the windows, and they're putting up signs. If you're high risk or you're traveling, you can't go into the apartment with her, so you have to just drop off supplies, FaceTime a lot, video a lot, call her a lot, drop off stuff outside her door. That's what everybody's recommending. It just doesn't make sense that you need to disrobe and take off the clothes you had on in the store, and you can eat the food and don't have to worry about ingesting food on the market. What if someone coughed on? It's so confusing. I'm sorry. I know it's confusing, but the thing is that the thought is that the virus lives on cloth and clothing longer than it lives on packaging and food. And so that's why we're talking about taking off your outer garments and taking off your shoes and the gloves. That's the idea. And you're going to swallow, and again, you're going to swallow the food. It'll go into your stomach and not breathe it. Daughter had dry cough, is a school teacher, was sick for 2 weeks. What's best for cough and congestion? I don't know. You'll have to ask your pediatrician, especially if they're young. I'm not going to tell you what to take for cough. But if she's had a dry cough for 2 weeks, she might have coronavirus. So you might want to talk to somebody about getting yourself and your family tested. Reishi mushrooms, okay to take, yes, as long as it's an extract of the mushroom. Almost done. As long as it's an extract of mushrooms, okay, and not, and it says the name of the mushroom, like reishi mushroom extract, yes. Some individuals need to continue to take their steroids. The recommendations for you are don't leave the house. You're the extra special quarantine person. Barricade the door. Don't see anyone in your family unless you know they've been quarantined for 2 weeks. And everyone who's living with you can't leave the house to go to work. If they do, you have to not see them and self-quarantine on the other side of the apartment. So I'm sorry, but you're super duper high risk if you're on steroids. Would you be able to address colloidal silver? Everyone asks me about that. I don't use it. I don't use it in my practice. It's not something that I do. And so there are people that like swear by it. So I'm not against colloidal silver. I just can't speak to it. Okay. So people swear by it. It actually might be very good. I just can't give instructions on it because I've never given it to people. It's just not something I've used in my practice. If you get sick, what can we take to get well? We talked about vitamin C. I've been talking about that already. Does vitamin C have to be buffered? If you're going to go to really high doses of C, buffered vitamin C is the best choice, definitely. And so you should definitely find buffered C. You might want to do a powder so you don't have to do a million pills. And so buffered vitamin C powder would be good. I've had blood tests that show I have high oxidative stress. Antioxidants to get the oxidative stress down. Vitamin C is the safest and best thing, but vitamins, all antioxidants are good. Eat a lot of color. So where else are you going to get antioxidants? Nutrition. Everybody's talking about that in the store, all the produce. There's plenty of produce, but there's no pasta. There's tons of produce at the store. The farmers need to live also through this. Go buy produce, peppers, color. Tons of color. You should be eating tons of color and vegetables every day because they are what's going to help you fight the virus. Your antioxidants help lock and reload your immune soldiers. The soldiers have to reload and reload and reload to fight what do they need to reload is antioxidants. That's why C is thought to be so good. Get it from food, right? So that's the best. I'm sorry, I think I'm running down. I think I'm going to have to sort of end here. So taking off his clothes, going right and taking a shower. Yes. Um, this is again, somebody asked about their husband having to go to work. What you're doing is great. Take off everything and just go take a shower and you're good. Okay. There's nothing else that you can do. If he gets sick himself, just at the first sign of him getting anything, if he has any symptoms, you just have to make sure you separate and isolate him in a room in the house. He's got to quarantine if he gets sick. He can't go to work anymore. And that's the most important thing. I talked about that, about steroids. I commented about ACE inhibitors. No, yeah, that whole thing about vitamin D and A and the ACE inhibitors, receptors, we're sort of debunking that. Stay on your usual doses of vitamin A and D, and you don't, that's this idea about those two things. I wrote about it and I sort of walked it back in my second email. We don't really know that A and D is really that. I know Chris Kresser talked about that. We don't really, that's all theoretical, and we don't really believe that you have to stop taking vitamins that might theoretically affect the ACE receptor. And that's all theoretical and not studied. Anyone can join my Friday calls. You can, all they have to do is, we've been sending out, you can go on the website and just sign up for it. I think it's a pop-up on the website, or you can share the registration link with them. They just have to register. So anyone can join the Friday calls. They don't have to be my patients. I don't know the answer to how much andrographis you should take. Sorry. If you have dormant Epstein-Barr virus, you're only at high risk for getting, the Epstein-Barr coming back and resurfacing if you get sick with the coronavirus, because one viral infection can cause, the other one to come back, but it doesn't make you high risk for getting coronavirus. Cough, congestion, natural medicine. No, lingering cough. Yeah, no, I don't really have an answer for the lingering cough part. I think if you're just trying over the counter stuff is probably okay. But I don't actually have an answer for that. Sorry about the cough. I live in an apartment building. Yep. Making sure no one's in the elevator with you. Is turmeric a good thing? Yes. Turmeric and curcumin is great. It has antioxidant properties. And it's good for the immune system. Lowering inflammation in general is good for the immune system. So yes to the turmeric. If you missed my opening monologue, no problem. This is going to get sent out to everybody with a link to the YouTube. We're going to put this up on YouTube. You can share it with everybody you know, and you can see it yourself. Okay. And finally, recommendations for pregnant. There's studies coming out that we think that it's looking good for pregnant women in terms of the fetus and babies that are born to positive mothers. So they seem to clear the virus. What I just read a study that they clear the virus in the first week. But if you're pregnant, just stay home. Consider, even though I don't know you're high risk, like I wouldn't worry that you'll get really sicker than anyone else. And actually pregnant women tend to have a really good and robust immune system, but I still would stay home. We still have surgeons doing a full schedule of elective surgeries. Would you recommend anything different for employees at the surgery center? You're in anesthesia. Thank you for your service. I mean, I seriously, for all my healthcare brethren, thank you for still going to work every day and fighting on the front lines. I think that I would be taking a lot of vitamin C, like I said. I would really ramp up all my supplement recommendations. You should be taking that. Keep your immune system strong. If your immune system is strong, can you be exposed and not take in the virus, even if you don't have antibodies yet? If your immune system is strong and you're definitely exposed, you could end up not getting sick and not having severe symptoms. You could have such a mild case of it that you don't realize you ever had it. And I think that's the goal, right? And that's it. Yay! I made it through all the questions. All right, 1 hour and 15 minutes. See, if I don't do my opening monologue, it would probably take me an hour. But I sort of have to do that because I have to say what's on my mind. Everyone be well. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.